and as I said at the very beginning of our talk, we always have choices. It's never deterministic what's going to happen next. Technology, the same technology can be used to construct very different kinds of social and political systems. The technology of the 20th century could be used to create a regime like Nazi Germany, or like the democratic United States. It was the same technology. There wasn't a big difference in technology between the US under Roosevelt and Germany under Hitler. Or if you look today at North Korea and South Korea, the difference is not technological. So as a historian, I'm very skeptical and also very worried about technological determinism. That because we have this technology, the only outcome must be that. It's never like this. It's usually a fiction told by people who want this outcome. So they tell you, well, it's inevitable because this is what the technology dictates. It's not true. In the 19th century, the big magnates of the coal and steel industry told people, well, we must have child labor. This is the new economy. We must have 8-year-old kids working in coal mines instead of going to school. If we don't do it, if you make laws against it, the Germans will do it and they will overcome us. Today we look back, and first of all, we know it wasn't so. Parliament in the UK and then in Germany and other places passed laws that kids should go to school and not to the coal mine. And we also understand that actually this was even more efficient. The country benefits when the economy benefits, when 8-year-old kids go to school and not to a coal mine. So now it looks to us obvious. But if you go back to 1860 or 1870, it's a huge debate. I mean, and some people say, no, it has to be like this. It's not, we don't like it, but this is the technology. This is the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, there's actually an argument like that right now with tech people talking about China versus the US. Like they need to be this big. I call it the she or me argument that Mark Zuckerberg often makes. It's that it's either China or me. And I was like, neither. What's the third choice? Where's my third?
I think there are third choices. We can build.
That's a choice, at least.
We should build, I mean, there are certain kind of guidelines for how to build, let's say, the data economy in a better way. To give just a few examples, whenever you increase surveillance of individuals, at the same time, you need to increase surveillance of the government and the big corporations. This should be a key principle that, okay, we have this technology, it has a lot of potential. Like you need to find the pandemic, the COVID crisis. So surveying people is a very important tool in fighting the pandemic, and I'm in favor, but on condition that simultaneously you also increase the surveillance of the government. The government is now spending trillions. I want to know easily where the money goes and who makes the decision to make sure the money goes to the people who really need it and not to some big corporation who happens to be friends with the minister. And it's the same technology. If it's now easier to survey me, it's also easier to survey you. And it doesn't make us less efficient than China if we do that. Because, again, you look at the pandemic, there is a huge discussion whether the pandemic would even have erupted in the first place if China was democratic. Nobody really knows for sure what happens in the first few weeks. Now, I not for a moment do I believe any of the ridiculous conspiracy theories about it was produced in a lab or something. No, I'm not going in that direction. It's just that, when you have the first few cases, the inclination of an authoritarian regime that has full control of the media is to repress bad news, not to tell bad news. Not because of some big conspiracy from the top, because, the people at the bottom, they don't want to share the bad news. And you don't have a free press to write about it, so you can hide it. And then you have more cases and more cases until it explodes, and then it's too late to stop it. In a democracy, maybe the local officials would also have tried to clamp down and to prevent the information from spreading, but you have journalists and you have bloggers, and somebody would have blown the whistle earlier, and maybe this whole thing would never have happened. Similarly, if you think about the vaccines, so I would trust a vaccine coming from a democratic country. I would not trust a vaccine coming from an authoritarian regime until it is checked by health authorities in a democratic country. And
Yes.
for an obvious reason. I mean, it's such an important tool today, the vaccines. I don't trust that in an authoritarian regime, the university or the laboratory or the health authority, if they find that the vaccine is dangerous, I don't trust them to tell the truth about it.